Hello, Kyle here. I am going to review the final episode of Miss Marvel, episode 6. I have been loving this show so far. It instantly became one of my favorite Disney Plus Marvel shows, and throughout the number of reviews I've done, I have continued to love the show. I think 2 episodes ago, I didn't like episode 4 as much as the others, but I still liked it. And episode 5 I still enjoyed. But I will say, all good things do come to an end. And in the case of episode 6 of Miss Marvel, I thought it was my least favorite episode. And also, I think it is the worst finale of the entire Disney Plus Marvel shows. And yeah, like I was disappointed with this episode. And it's a shame because I really think the Disney Plus Marvel finales have all been pretty good. I think I can't recall like what my least favorite is. It might be Moon Knight, but then again, I remember I was very disappointed with WandaVision. But I think that was more so because we all had our own expectations for what would be in the WandaVision finale. In the case of this show, though, I think that the 6-episode format really hurt this series. And I really thought it was going to work out. I thought that when it started, I'm like, this 6-episode format's probably going to work for Miss Marvel. But when it came to episode 5, and they killed off what was the main antagonist of the series, which was the clandestine leader, who I still don't remember her name, but Kamran's mother. When they killed her off, it became a situation where you're like, well, who's the villain of this show now? Who's the antagonist? And you had Damage Control, but I wouldn't really call Damage Control that big of an antagonist. I mean, they're as much of an antagonist, I feel like, in this show as they were in No Way Home. And they are not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, they're going after Kamala, but the fact that this episode made the entire, antagonist lead up to just being Damage Control going after these kids, I thought was very anticlimactic. And not just that, but I get it. Like, these are, I mean, at least Kamala is superpowered, Kamran's superpowered. But are you telling me that this government agency can be outsmarted by a whole bunch of kids and a bunch of people that have no idea what it's like to be in a situation like this? Being outsmarted, like, I got a little bit of Home Alone vibes from it, and I kind of did like at one point when they were kind of outsmarting them, but like when you see Kamran on the top of the second story and he's like, oh, you guys gonna catch me, he's right in front of them, they have 100 guns pointed at him, and he just runs away. That does not make any sense. Then it was like they were buffoons, like they really couldn't catch these kids. Yeah, I was disappointed at the way that this finale played out, but one of the worst parts about this finale for me was Zoe, who was a character that showed up in episode 1 and a bit of episode 2, and she was kind of, I guess, the bully of this show, but not really, which I like. But at the same time, I think they cut a scene out of her, because in the trailer, I remember they had a scene with her and Kamala by a locker, and that was never in the show. I think there were a lot of scenes that were cut out of this show, because a lot of the scenes in the trailers I don't think were in this show. And then what was weird was Zoe, she was in episodes 1 and 2, and she completely disappeared. And then all of a sudden, in this school, as they're planning out to get away from the Damage Control people and hide, she just comes into center frame and she's like, oh, let me help you. And everyone, including the people in the show, are like, wait, where'd you come from, Zoe? She's like, I was in theater. Okay, like, that was very convenient. It was like an ex machina almost. Like, this episode just felt so rushed. It felt so messy. I've had issue with the Hawkeye finale over how they kind of utilized the trust a bro, company, the gang. They kind of rushed Kingpin's storyline and that, but compared to this makes Hawkeye's finale look like The Boys, because it really, for me, it really should have been a longer series, and I think it really hurt it because, like, when we get to Kamran's story in this episode with him trying to figure out his powers, there's a moment where he's like, "Oh, you're not telling me about my mother, Kamala. What's going on with you?" And then he starts to run away, and then he starts to break everything, and it's like, oh no, Kamran, are you gonna be a villain now? Luckily that didn't play out that way. Kamala helped him, but I still don't get how Kamala, she breaks the ground beneath them and says, "Kamran, get to the harbor." How is Kamran going to figure out how to get to the harbor when he's underground? Did she lead a path in? I guess he could do it himself, but how would you figure that out? The damage control lady, I guess the villain of this show, she was a strange character. She didn't do much for a lot of this series, and then all of a sudden she plays this big part. I mean, there's so many things in this episode that just disappointed me. I will get to some positives though. I loved Kamala's costume. I really think that it was strange that they not only teased this thing in trailers, in toys, in marketing, but also at a Disney cruise line, and they showed this costume off when I saw Thor: Love and Thunder, and they played it in the opening credits. So it's like, they really didn't make a secret about this costume. And I found out that this costume's only going to be in this episode, so we're not going to see it again because she has a different costume in the Marvels. But I did like her costume. I thought it was really sweet that her mother was the one that made it for her, because that whole thing about her mother wanting her to, wear something else that isn't superhero related to the Avengers Con, and then she's like, oh, you can dress as the Hulk. Like, she didn't want her to be Captain Marvel, but now she actually gave it to her, and her father giving her the name Miss Marvel. I thought that was really sweet. I really thought that the ending with them calling Kamala a mutant is really cool, and I think that's going to open up a variety of possibilities. Also, the fact that they played the X-Men animated series theme, which if you look in the credits is listed as the X-Men 97 theme, like it was listed in the credits for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So they are clearly teasing this series, the sequel series to the animated series that will probably release next year. And I am really excited for it. I've been binging the original animated series, so I don't know whether this means that they could have Miss Marvel pop up in that series, whether that series will be canon, or whether they're just using that series as a title. I also really do love how the ending teases the Marvels in a very unexpected way. Apparently, Kamala got shot into some type of portal thing, and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, is in her room. So I don't know what's going to happen there. If Kamala's going to be, in another space. That's something that I'm trying to figure out where her story could be in the Marvels. I thought that she would meet Carol in this episode, but she didn't, so they are definitely saving that that first meeting for the Marvels, which is great. But yeah, I think the show itself, as a whole, I still enjoyed the series, despite a very disappointing finale. I think that this is probably, like, the other day I was ranking the shows, and I put this really high. Unfortunately, with the finale and just the way that the pacing worked for this series, I have to lower it. So right now, I would say the best Disney Plus Marvel series is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I would go with WandaVision, Loki, Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, and then What If. So that's where I rank my Disney Plus shows. But I did still enjoy this series as a whole. I think that Miss Marvel is a great character, and I think that Iman Vellani is one of the best castings in the MCU to date, and I cannot wait for the Marvels. So let me know what you thought of Miss Marvel. Were you as disappointed with the finale as I was? Did you really enjoy the finale? Do you enjoy the show? Are you excited for the Marvels? Let me know below, and thank you and have a nice day. Bye.